And welcome to After Effects. So After Effects, this is the interface. And over here we have the project panel where we can pull files in for our projects. This is the effects control panel where we can apply effects to the files that are in our project. And then this is the timeline down here. This area over here will eventually be space for our composition window, which I'll show you in a minute. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a few files. Let's just bring these in. Let's bring in the Earth. And let's bring in Antarctica, this one and that one. All right, 4 good, nice files for us to work with. Very good. So I have these files, but I still do not have a composition window to build anything in. So the composition window is kind of like the stage in Flash, or you could compare it to sort of like the canvas area in Final Cut. So it's the area where you're seeing what it is you're making, and you're actually in After Effects, you're actually compositing there. So we're going to make a new composition. We'll call it My New Composition. How appropriate. And we'll give it, we'll select NTSC-DV, which is just kind of your standard NTSC size, which is television size for the United States. And obviously you can have all different kinds of formats here. You can go HD 1080 if you want to, DVC Pro. There's all different kinds of options that you have, even Cineon and film. After Effects is used a lot for film compositing and special effects, so it's not at all surprising to see those options. So we'll go ahead and take a look. We've got 20-second duration that we're going to establish and a frame rate of 29.97. There we go. Here is our 20-second timeline down in the timeline area. And let's just take a look at what we have. Let's just do something really simple. Let's bring, I happen to like this image. I'll look at it full screen here. All right, that's fine. So into my composition now, I'm going to drag this background, and wow, look at how big it is. It's really huge, which is good. We always like things that are bigger than the screen because we can always size down, which is what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I'm just grabbing the the corner toggle, and I'm just resizing. I'm holding Shift down so that I do that in aspect ratio, but of course I could stretch and pull things as well. All right, so I've got that. That looks fine. Perfect. All right. Now let's bring in the Earth. Let's assume that we're going to make kind of a lunar surface out of this. And what I want to do next is I want to bring in the Earth. Again, I can see that the Earth is a huge, 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 huge file. So I need to find the edge of this file, which is over here. I can tell by the little toggle corner. And again, I'm resizing this image and making it a size that I can actually deal with. And I'll keep doing that. And that's pretty cool. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to be able to see my moon over my background. Again, I can come down here to the timeline, and if I turn off the little eyeball, I can, again, sort of see what that looks like. So at this point, there's lots of ways that I can apply this Earth over this background that will become lunar in a little while. One way that I can do it is through the effects menu through keying. I could actually key out the black, which would be a completely fine way to do it. But for the sake of showing you some of the other tools, I'm going to actually do it with a mask. One of the things that's really great about After Effects is all the masking that you can do with it. So we're going to use a mask. We're going to use this ellipse tool, and I want to make sure that I'm on the Earth layer. And now I'm going to just Shift and hold this down, make a circle, and voila. Now I will pick my selection tool All right, so now as you can see, I'm just moving that. And that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's good. So now I've kind of effectively masked that out. I might even, at this point, pull this mask in just a little bit tighter. And just angle that in a little bit. There we go. And I could continue to fool around with this until I get it, you know, as precise as I need to. All right, so when you do this work, lots of times precision is, you know, very important. So, you know, you can continue to work with that as much as you want. So if I look now at my layers down here in the timeline, I have an earth layer, and underneath that layer I have masks, right? The mask I just applied. And I also have all of these options for transforming this moon. I'm sorry, this earth. My goodness, it's an earth. All right, so very simple. Let's say that I wanted to start with this earth big and then just have it scale down over time in the timeline. Let's just say I would want that to take maybe 3 seconds or so. So the first thing that I would do is I would put a keyframe in the beginning position of the timeline. So I will put a keyframe at position, and I'll put a keyframe at scale. So position says this is where I want to start the thing, and scale is this is how big I want it to be when I'm starting it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the scale up quite a lot, and then I'm going to shift the position up as well. Up. All right. Continue to shift up. All right. And let's take it actually all the way off the screen. Okay. So that's my first position. Now at 3, I actually want to establish 2 more keyframes in size and position. The first, in terms of position, will have me bring the earth back into the frame, and then it will have me size the earth smaller. Okay, and then again in terms of position, I can drop the position and move that position left and right. And of course I could be doing this by hand too, just by going in and picking this up and moving it around. Since I kind of know these numbers and I know what they mean, I tend to like to use those, but obviously you don't have to do that. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Now, when I look at something in real time, or I try to look at something in real time, sometimes the speed is a little bit slow because the program wants to render these frames as they go. So right now that's not too bad in terms of the speed of the render. But if I wanted that to go a little bit faster, I can cut the preview resolution down a little bit. And that's kind of nice because sometimes if you have something really complex that you're working on, and you have many layers doing, you know, with lots of movement, you can really cut the resolution down, and the speed will pick up of the preview. So sometimes that's kind of a handy thing to know how to do. Now let's say that I just want to work in a certain work area for a certain period of time. Let's say I really only care about the first 5 seconds of this. So this is a little work area bar that can be moved along the timeline, and it allows me just to focus on the 5 seconds that I'm dealing with, which is kind of nice. So you'll note that when it gets to the end, it tends to hit the end, loop, and come back. So the kind of cool thing about that is I can kind of see this thing happening over and over and over again. Let's see it back and forth, sideways. No, just kidding, not sideways. But anyhow, you get the idea. And now I can see it going back in again. So I can kind of just view this thing and see, hey, is this what I like or not? All right, now we have to deal, let's actually go back to full resolution on this. Now we have to work out what this thing is going to look like as a kind of a Martian landscape or a different kind of a landscape. So I'm going to close that up, close up the earth, and I'm going to come over to this background. And one of the things that we always want to know with video, pictures, and things like that, how do you change color? Wow. So in After Effects, this is the magic menu, the magic pull-down menu. All of these effects give you so much capability. Say I just want to change the color. So let's say that I want to pick the color to change, and I'll say, you know, what I really want to do is I want to pick this kind of blue color. That's what I want to work with. Okay. And one thing that I want to do is I want to up the tolerance of my piece so that I'm actually picking more of that blue background. So what I really want is something that is in the red area, kind of like red-orange or something like that, kind of like the red planet. And then lightness is how light is it, and you know, dark to light, how much black, how much white. And then this saturation is how much color. Is it kind of washed out, or does it have a little bit more color? And then, of course, the softness, you know, how soft are, you know, the blends in here and everything. So it's kind of neat. You can always do crazy things like invert just about anything. Okay, so anyhow, let's say that I like that, and, you know, I'm happy with that. So that gives you a little bit about what to do there with color correction. Let's go in and now let's get rid of this background and let's put our own background in. The way that I'm going to do that again is by using a mask. And again, I want to make sure now that I'm on this, I want to make sure I'm on the right layer. And I'm going to use the pen tool here. And I'm going to go into Roto Bezier mode. The reason that I like that is because I can go point to point, and I'll show you in just a second here, and I can kind of curve these points along, just kind of make it look sort of nice. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going all along the mountains here. And the purpose of this is to block out the sky. So I could do this a lot, kind of a lot more carefully, but for right now I'm more concerned with doing this expeditiously, so I'm just kind of going to speed through this a little bit. So now I'm going to link everything together. So now I'm blocking out the sky, so I'm keeping the ground, but I've got this free sky now that I can kind of do something with. Now, one of the things that I can do in the mask, let's go back to this masking area we've been dealing with. So when you deal with masks, you can add a mask or you can subtract. We can also do things like we can feather a mask. So we can do things like, if you can see this, it's making that sort of, giving it kind of a cool atmospheric look in the background back there. And then of course, even you can deal with opacity, transparency of the mask. And you can even expand the mask if you want from what you selected. Okay, so let's say that I like that, and I will let that go. All right, now I still need to get something to put in the background up here. What I think I'll do, this is kind of a fun little thing to do. We're going to come up here to Layer. We're going to add a solid color. For right now, I'll just use black, which is fine. So now I have this black solid. I want to come over to my effects. Again, I can get to effects either through the pull-down menu or the nice little nifty panel over here, the effects panel. And I want to try to find a fractal effect. Fractal effects are very, very cool. And I want to generate a fractal. And so I'm going to generate a fractal on this guy. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that fractal. I am going to do the other fractal. So I'm going to come into effects and I'm going to throw out the first fractal, get rid of that, and I'm going to just work on fractal noise. And so if I come over here, I can see that there's kind of some really fun stuff that I can do with these fractals. I can do a basic fractal. I can do different kinds of fractals. If you look at this, this is almost looking kind of spacey. I love that. I got to do something with that. I don't know what that will be yet, but anyhow. And then you can adjust contrast, adjust brightness, like this, obviously. Okay. Complexity, and then you can do these like kind of evolution. How many evolutions of this stuff do you want? You can adjust opacity here, which is real fun. Now I'm starting to get little twinkly type of things. And then this is all the different ways that we can add this to our background. None of those are really successful, so I'm going to figure out a different way to do this. What I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to put it underneath that menu. And then again, I can come up and I can put some color in there. So let's go into color correction. Let's see, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? Let's go to hue and saturation for a second and find some saturation. And then maybe colorize it. And let's try to find a hue that I like. Maybe there's like a weird blue. This is looking completely strange. Okay, so we've got that. And we can animate this, we can blur it. Let's go and put another, let's put a blur on there. Let's do like a, so much fun. I don't know what to do first. Let's go ahead and just do a plain old Gaussian blur for the moment. And again, here's our Gaussian blur. We're just going to sort of do like that. Horizontal. I can do weird stuff like that. So anyhow, lots of fun that you can do with these things. Again, let's go ahead and let's see what the heck's happening here. So we've got our moon coming in. You can, or I'm sorry, our Earth. You can see right now I've got more layers happening here. So as a result, I have more, you know, my rendering time has gone up a little bit, which is fine. Again, if I want to change that and make that go faster, I just come in here and I take this, you know, this resolution down a little bit. All right, now, last but not least, let's go find this spaceship. We're going to drag this great big old spaceship in here because after all, it is a space scene, so we should do something with our spaceship. Again, I'm going to resize, size spaceship down. Now we're going to look at one more way of keying something. Get that toggle. All right. So in this case, I want to actually use one of these keying controls. And I'm going to use linear, actually I'm going to use the Luma key, luminance. What I want to get rid of is this exterior black. And so luminance deals with darks, you know, darks and lights. So actually Luma is a really good one to use here. So if I come over to threshold, I can already see what an excellent quick job that did. Not a problem. So I'm saying key out the darker elements. If I said key out the brighter elements, you can see that that would reverse the key. All right, now I've got a pretty decent spaceship. Take this off over here. And let's have our spaceship come in at like 4 seconds. Let's say 4.5 seconds, like after the moon has, I'm sorry, after the Earth has landed. Let's have the spaceship come in. And what we'll do is we'll have the spaceship. Let's go find those transform controls. Position and scale can start here. All right, right where I am. We're going to have it fly in, and at 7, we're going to take the position. We're going to add 2 more keyframes, and then we're manually going to move this so it flies off the screen. Okay. So that's my second keyframe. Now if I want to get back and forth between keyframes, I simply can use these arrows to jump back and forth. Okay. So I'm in this work area. Let's go ahead and let's preview this now. So I can preview from here. Ooh, I can see a problem already. So one of the things I need to do is I actually need to move these. I have that actually moving before I have the keyframes placed before there's actually anything there. So let's fix that. There we go. There we go. There we go. Maybe right there. Okay. Okay, so now this guy comes on, so the Earth has landed in place in the sky, and now the ship is sailing by. Now, one of the things that we would look at next in our lessons would be, how do you do things like, how would I make like a vapor trail behind this? And so we'll talk about that in the next tutorial. Hopefully this will get you going with some ideas. Let me show you just a couple of other really quick things, and then I'll let you go to the next thing. Placing text is really super easy to do. Space scene, we'll just put that in there. So text is super easy. Again, it goes in like a layer, like many of the other programs that you've used. You simply click within the text, and then you can change the size. You can change the the kind of font that you want to use, all of that groovy stuff. Let's get Poplar. All right. And you can do all of that sort of stuff. Lots of things that you can do with text, and I will also tell you that under Animate there's actually some really great things that you can do with just animating text. Very well worth looking at. And there's also presets. So there's a lot of different presets that you can use if you browse presets. Let's see, one last thing that we can look at. When you are doing something like this, you also might be able to use some of these, like there's lots of wipes and dissolves and things like that you can use in here, like linear wipes. That could be good. Like if you wanted to animate, for example, a pie chart, like the radial wipe might be a really, really good thing to use for that. Okay, so that just kind of gives you an overview of a few things that you can do and start to have fun with. So if you would take these files and just kind of start to play around with them a little bit, that would be great. And then we'll move on to other things in the next tutorial.